All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this training. My name is Jenna Schrenard, Marketing Consultant at PCA Technology Group. Before I hand it over to our speaker today, I want to thank you in advance for joining us. We are very excited to be teaming up with Microsoft to offer these complimentary sessions so you can get the most out of your tools. This will actually be our final session to wrap up 2022, but there will be more to come in 2023 with brand new topics, so stay tuned for details on that a little later. But today's topic is about tips, shortcuts, and what's new with Teams. I'd also like to share that a Lenovo gift card is raffled to one attendee after each training, so be on the lookout via email to see if you are the lucky winner from today. And lastly, as we go through these roughly 45 minutes to an hour together, please submit any questions that you have, and we'll make sure to get to them. But with that being said, it's a pleasure to hand it off to Katie and the Microsoft team.
Thank you, Jenna, and hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. So our session will be tips, shortcuts, and what's new in Microsoft Teams, like Jenna mentioned. So we'll be going through that today. One quick reminder, this training will be recorded and available on demand. The way that you'll be able to rewatch it is just by using the same link that you used to join us today, and that's going to take you back to a playback of this session. So feel free to rewatch that if you'd like to. Now, before we get started, I do just want to go over some controls that you have here in the platform that we're using. So we are using Microsoft Teams live events. And at the very bottom of your screen, you will have a playback bar. And on the very left-hand side of that playback bar, you will have a play button. If you do need to pause for any reason, feel free to do so. And then once you return to your computer, you can just pick back up where you left off. You do also have access to captions, which will be on the right-hand side of that playback bar. You also have settings just to the right of those captions where you can change things like text size, text color, even things like video quality. So if you do plan on using captions today, take some time to make sure that you feel comfortable with those before we get started with all of the content. Now, on the far right-hand side of your screen, you will see two message bubbles with a question mark on top. That is the Q&A, and that will be the only way that you can communicate with us today. And I am joined by my colleague, Roxana, who's going to help me to answer any questions that you guys might have. Now, within the Q&A, you do have two different sections. You have a featured tab as well as a My Questions tab. Now, any announcements that we post, or if Roxana has posted a question and answered that, those are going to show up inside of the featured section. The My Questions tab is going to have any questions that you have asked, along with any answers that have been given for that question. Down at the very bottom is where you are going to be asking your questions, and it is optional to put your name, but of course we'd love to know who it is that we're speaking with, and it makes it a little bit easier to kind of keep track of the questions that are coming in. Now, just to put a face to the name, my name is Katie. I will be your trainer for the hour. And like I mentioned, I am joined by my colleague, Roxana, so she's going to help me out in the Q&A. Now, we'll quickly go over our agenda, and then we will jump into our demonstration. So we're going to talk about leveraging formatting, best practices to help get your messages noticed and responded to, how you can integrate tools and best practices to streamline the collaboration process, and how you can implement strategies to manage and organize your work and really simplify your workday inside of Teams. Now, just a quick look at what we're going to be, really talking about today. We'll spend some time in our chat tab where we'll learn about some formatting tools and the way that you can integrate applications. We'll jump into meetings and calls and talk about, ad hoc meetings and how you can meet inside of channels. We'll then kind of talk about some shortcuts. Those are very helpful inside of Teams. And then we'll spend some time talking about search and the way that you can actually search inside of, just a group message or inside of all of Teams, and then where you can go to find some help. So we're going to jump into our demonstration, and let me share out a different screen here. All right. Alrighty, let me just make sure that I'm all set up here. Okay. So what we're going to start with first here in Teams is just going to be your status notification. And what's great about the status notification here in Teams is that you're able to mention individuals inside of that status. So we're going to come up here to the top right-hand corner where you have your profile. We'll click on our profile, and then you're going to see set status message here. Now, this is kind of similar to like an out of office, right? If you were, going to be away from Teams or away from your computer and you wanted to let everybody know, that's kind of where your status message will come in. Even if you're out to lunch, maybe, this is a great opportunity to set that up. You do also have access to just scheduling an out of office here within Teams as well. But we're going to set a quick status message. I'm currently in my demo tenant Isaiah's account, and he is going to be in some training until 3 p.m. And so he wants to let his team know. So we are just going to type out in this text box here, will be out for training until 3 o'clock p.m. For immediate assistance, please reach out. I apologize, I am not a very fast typer here. Please reach out to, and at this point, we want to @mention somebody so that our team has someone to get in contact with in Isaiah's absence here. So what I'm going to do is hit the @ symbol. As soon as you do that here in Teams, it automatically knows that you'd like to @mention someone. It'll pull up some suggestions for you here. If you don't find that individual here in this list, you can just type out their name. So I'll just type out Deborah, and it's going to find that individual, and I can then attach her name here. Now, once you've done that, you can go below the actual text box here, and it's going to say show when people message me. So if somebody was to come into the chat tab and type in your name and go directly to your chat, it's going to display this message for them or let them know that you have an out of office or a status message set, and they'll be able to see that information. So if you do want them to be able to see that, you'll want to make sure that you select this box here. And then we do have when to clear that status message after. Now we can open up this menu here, and we have a few options like 1 hour, 4 hours, right? But at the very bottom, you're also going to have custom. If I select that here, it's going to now open up a date and a time for me. And so this is going to work really well for this particular status because Isaiah is just going to be out until 3 p.m. So we can actually open up this time scroll here and find 3 p.m. and schedule our status to turn off at that time, right? So we can hit done at the very bottom. And now it's going to let us know that this is displaying our status message until 3 p.m. So when Isaiah gets back from his training. But what's great about this is if somebody comes in and they have a question for, Isaiah here, and he's gone, they can actually hover over Deborah's name, and that's going to open up her contact card and give that individual the ability to get in contact with her. So here within the contact card, you do have, starting a chat. You can see, who does Deborah work with? You can start a video call or an audio call. This also has a way for you to just send a quick message inside of this contact card, which is really helpful sometimes. And then you also have just their email that you can copy and paste in Outlook. So that's a status message here within Teams. Now let's move on to chat. And so I'm going to move over to my left rail here, and we're just going to click into our chat tab. So we're going to talk a little bit about some formatting options and then how you're able to integrate applications here within your chat tab. So I'm currently in a chat that Isaiah has with 3 other coworkers. Now at the bottom right is of course where we're going to type out our message, but you'll notice that you have your format button as the very first option here. Now, once you select that, not only does that make your text box a little bit bigger, but you do have all of those formatting options. And we're going to go through some of these right now so that you can kind of see exactly what is offered for you here. So we're going to type out a quick message to this team. Good morning, team. and we're going to give them some go-dos here. So we're going to say, please review these items first thing today. Oh, and let me make sure that I'm spelling correctly here. All right, so we have some items for them to review, and this would be a great time to use like a bulleted list or a numbered list, and you do have access to that here within a Teams chat. So that's a part of your formatting options. It's kind of in the center portion of this message box here, but you can see we have a bulleted list as well as a numbered list. So depending on what you'd like to choose, we can make a selection here. Now we're gonna say, review doc attached to afternoon meeting invite, and look out for customer email. All right, so we have our list of items. You'll notice that we can just hit enter a few more times, and that's going to get rid of that bulleted list here. Now we've sent some information, currently, right? But you also have the ability to insert a line break. Let's say that we wanted to insert some more information for our team, but we don't want to send multiple messages here. Within your formatting options at the far kind of right-hand side, it's going to be really close to where your tables are. You're going to notice that you have what is called insert horizontal rule. Now, if I select that, it places a line break for me, and it kind of breaks up this chat. So now I have almost like a different section where I can start inserting some more information. We can now create a different message here, and we'll just say, please let me know if these times work for each of your one-to-ones. Now, at this point, right, we want to let them know about some times for their one-on-ones. Now, it is, helpful to be able to insert tables into some of these chats, and you can actually draw tables here within Teams. Now, it's going to be just to the right of that horizontal rule that we just utilized, and so you have the ability to insert a table. Once you have inserted a table, you can insert a column or a row and then delete that here. Let's select insert table. Now this is going to allow us to draw this out, which is really helpful. And if you've seen this in like Word or they have it in PowerPoint, right, this is always kind of helpful. So let's select this here. We've added that information, and we're just going to say Irvin, 10 a.m. We can tab over Nestor, 9 a.m. and then we'll do Patty at 2 p.m. So we've created our message here. Now we can just go down to the bottom and hit send. And so you'll see, we've sent out that message. Here's that horizontal rule or that line break, and it kind of breaks up our message here. And we were able to insert a nice table for our team to kind of view this information a little easier. Now, you do also have the ability, right, if you wanted to get their attention, let's say that, we meant to send this as important and we didn't have the opportunity, right? I forgot to actually place that. You're going to have an ellipsis here in the top right-hand corner. This is your more options menu. And within this list, you're going to have quite a few options, and we'll go through some of these, but I want to go just to edit, because if you did mean to send something as important, or you did just need to kind of edit your message, you have the ability to do so here. Now, I'm going to go back to this formatting button, because that is going to give you all of those same formatting options that you saw earlier. But this time it's going to add in the important mark, right? So I can actually select that here, and it's going to mark that as important for me, and I'm able to now send that out to my team, and I've edited that, and now it's marked as important. Now you do also have reactions here that you can react to different posts. They've also added in, which is nice, more reactions here where you can actually customize how you're reacting to these messages. You have, every type of emoji that they have. If you wanted to respond with an olive or something, right, you can do that. Let's go back to this ellipsis here. because you're also going to have the ability to pin a message. Now, in this group chat, maybe they are constantly, conversing with each other. The chances of this message now going all the way to the top, as they're, talking is probably pretty high. So if you wanted to make sure that they have access to this information, because this is all of the items that they need to be reviewing today, we can actually pin this. Now, you can only have one message pinned at any one time, so do keep that in mind. But up at the very top, you're going to notice that we have now pinned that message. And so this is going to help your team to see, hey, there's a message pinned. If they're interested in, going back to that message, they can just select that, and it's now going to take them directly back to that message where they can view that information. Let's go back here to our ellipse. And you're also going to have things like save this message, which is really helpful here in Teams. You do have a saved folder that you can utilize. If you have, any sort of message that's come through, even in a team, this can happen inside of a channel, really anywhere here in Teams. But you want to be able to reference back to it. You can just hit save this message, and that'll go inside of your saved folder, which is located in your profile. You'll see that saved section here. Now, here within chat, this is a great place to really collaborate with your team. And you do have what is called a loop component available for you here in a chat. Now, it's going to be down here at the very bottom below your compose box. So if I kind of move over, it's the fourth icon that you'll see. So it kind of looks like two circles inside of one another. This is a live loop component, and it's basically a live document. Now, I can click on this loop component here, and we have bulleted lists, checklists. So depending on what you'd like to create for your team, let's say that ours is going to be a task list here. You'll see that it's syncing that information, but I can come in here and add a title. Let's just say this is the end of day checklist. We can tab down and create some different tasks. You can add assignees, and this is, in particular to the to the task list. You can always change that information based on, which type of loop component that you have selected. So let's just say submit recap, and then we're going to make sure that they send customer drafts. Now, at this point, we can also add assignees here. But what's great about this loop component is this is a live document, so anybody who is a part of this chat can come in and edit this information. So if we wanted to say, we could send another message that says, hey, Irvin, please assign these to who we see fit, right? He'd be able to come in here and add some assignees. You can also come in here and I can assign this to an individual, right? You can @mention them, and this individual will get an email letting them know that they were @mentioned in a loop component, and then they can go back and review that information. So let's send this out so that you can see. Now this is syncing, and so anybody in this chat, of course, is able to come in and add a task. If they were here inside of this loop component, we could see their little face show up at the top, just like we see Isaiah's here as well. So this is a really great tool to use, especially, in a chat here with a team. Now, you do have some other applications that you can add into a chat. Now, down at the very bottom under our compose box, you'll see that we have things like, schedule a meeting. That's a great way to make sure that you don't forget anybody on your invite, right? You'll see that as soon as I've selected schedule a meeting, it has brought in every single individual who is a part of that chat message. So I can see Nestor and Patty and Irvin. And at that point, you can come in and add more individuals. But this works really well, especially if you have a group chat that has, many individuals and you want to make sure that you don't forget anyone. This option is very helpful. You also have things like stream. We have praise here. You can also add in things like Power BI if this is something that your team uses often, right? We can actually select one of these Power BI documents here, and then we can actually send that out to our team where they're able to go and open this information. They can also subscribe, and it gives it kind of an easy way to view that information. The same thing with like a form here. So this is available for you to utilize. Now, if you don't use some of these options, you always have other applications that you can add in using your messaging extensions button. So this is that ellipse that you'll see here. So those 3 dots. If I select that, this is giving me the ability to find an app that I'd like to use inside of my chat. Now, it's going to give you some recently used ones or recently accessed, and then you do have some suggestions here. We can see like YouTube and our Polly and news, right? There are more applications that you can utilize by selecting the More Apps button. This will take you to the App Store. And if you're looking for something maybe to help your team be more productive, right? They have some really great categories here where you can take a look and see, what applications are going to help you with that. We'll go back here to chat. Let's say that, we really want to use, let me close this out. I accidentally selected forms here. We really want to integrate Bing News here. We'd be able to just select that icon, but you can also pin that down at the bottom of your compose box, right? So let's say I'm going to unpin forms here. So you can also unpin applications. You can only have some pinned at one time. But let's say, let's try a different one here. Maybe we'll do Viva Learning. So this is another option here. From here, we can actually pin that, and that's going to show up down at the bottom for us. So you can customize this list here. Maybe you don't use Stream that often, right? You can right click and unpin that. Oops. Stream might be one that you can't unpin, but you can do that with like Power BI and stuff. So anything that you add in, you can also unpin from here. Now, you also have, the ability to kind of create maybe like an easier looking chat tab here. So if you have a lot of information that's coming in, this might be very busy, right? So you can always pin different conversations. We can see them here at the top. We have a pin section as well as a recent section as well. So anything that is important to you, let's say that we're working with Lee very closely here. We can utilize that ellipse on the right hand side, so this more options menu, and I can come in and actually pin that. Now that is showing up in my pin section, and from here you can actually reorganize these. So if I wanted to move him kind of into the second position here, I'm able to do that as well. I want to pause really quickly and see if we have any questions that we can answer. We just have a few more things to cover in chat, and then we'll move on from here.
I don't see any questions in the chat, Katie.
Okay, awesome. Now, a few other things that you have the ability to do here, and I wish that I had a chat that was in a different language here, but we're going to go back. Let me scroll up here. Let's say that this chat was in a different language. You're going to see within this ellipse, you have the ability to translate. And I think there's a message inside of a channel that I can show you how that works, because that's also available within there. But what's great about Teams is there's no language barrier anymore. If you're speaking with somebody who speaks Spanish and you only speak English, they're able to type out in their native language, and then you could go in and translate, and then you could respond back in English, and they can go back and just translate your message as well. So that's also available here in a chat message. All right, we're going to move on into our calendar now. So I'm going to navigate to our left rail and just click into calendar. Now, you do have the ability to start what are called ad hoc meetings. So I'm sure that everybody knows how to schedule out a meeting here in Teams, so we won't be covering that. But let's say that you have, a quick meeting, you just want to meet with these individuals really quickly, or you wanted to start maybe, like a quick learning session where people are able to join as they have time. What you can do is utilize this Meet Now button in the top right-hand corner. So if I select Meet Now, this is now giving me the ability to start a meeting. You can rename this meeting, right? So depending on whatever it is that you're talking about, right? Maybe we want to call this a lunch and learn. And you can, from there, get a link to share out with these individuals. Maybe you're going to share this out in a quick chat and say, hey, we're going to start this meeting in a few minutes. Join us if you'd like. You can copy that meeting link and send that out. You can also share this via email. But I could also go in and just start the meeting here. You'll notice that it keeps my title, and that's going to be helpful if there are any chats that kind of happen with this meeting. But we'll just hit join now here, because that is then going to place us inside of a meeting. We have all of those same options that we normally have in a meeting. You also have the ability to call people in, right? So if you wanted to do that, you can. This is also a great place to get in if you maybe have a presentation that you're giving and you want to kind of practice and make sure that you feel comfortable with that. This is a great place to do that here inside of a Meet Now. Now we're going to just leave this meeting because you also have the ability to meet inside of a channel as well. So let's navigate to the left rail. We're going to click inside of Teams. And we're just going to stick inside of this PNW Coffee Social campaign that we have. This is a channel that we're a part of. Now, up in the top right-hand corner, you are going to see a Meet button. Now, this is the exact same thing that we saw inside of our calendar. Now, this is going to just take us into our pre-meeting screen, but this is also going to give us the ability to rename this meeting here. So maybe this is going to be design ideas for the spring launch. And we can hit join now here. Now, what's great about this is, again, it places you in a meeting like you're normally used to seeing. You have all of those same options here. But let me minimize this. You'll see that it actually creates a post here within this channel. And so anybody who is kind of scrolling through Teams, they can take a look and see that inside of this channel, there's a meeting happening. If they were interested to know, what are they talking about, they can see the title of that meeting. So design ideas for the spring launch. And if they are even more interested, right, they could see who is a part of that meeting currently in, and then how long that meeting has been going on. Any conversations that are happening inside of that meeting as well are going to be threaded inside of this post that will then stay here inside of this channel. So anybody has the ability to come back and reference this information at any time. That includes things like a recording. If you recorded some information, anybody can come in and rewatch that information. So that's a channel Meet Now. That's a very helpful tool as well. We'll just end this here. And you'll see that here is that post that it's created, the design ideas for the spring launch meeting. It'll tell them, when it was ended. And then, of course, if there were any conversations that were happening, these would be threaded. This also, stays as a post, and anybody is able to come in and reply to any of the, this conversations that were happening, even though the meeting is, technically over. Now, since we're here in Teams and Channels, I do want to talk a little bit about the ability that you have to send an email inside of a channel. Now, sometimes, if you have an email that's come in that has important information and you want to share that with your team, instead of you having to come in and, create a new conversation and copy that information and paste it here in Teams, you actually have the ability to just forward an email inside of a channel. Now, I want to show you how that's going to work. So we're going to utilize this PNW Coffee Social campaign, and we're going to select this More Options menu on the far right-hand side. And you're going to notice that you have an option to get the email address for this channel. So I'm going to select that here. It's going to then provide me that email address, and I can copy that. Now I'm just going to go into Outlook, and I have it open here in just my web browser. Now this is something that you can do from either the web version or even the a desktop version as well. So what you're going to want to do is this information here is important for my team, and I want to forward that message. We're going to go to just our forward button here. And just like you would normally forward a message, just the only difference here is in the to box, we're going to paste that email address that just so happens to be the channel email address here. So we're placing that information, right? We could come in and delete some of this information if we'd like. You know, maybe we don't want it to show who the email is from, right? We could delete some of that information. And let's kind of scroll down here and see. We might want to delete this as well. Oops. I don't know if I can. Okay, there we go. So we can delete that. Now, once you're done, right, we can just hit send. And that's going to now send that email inside of our channel. And hopefully this will work for me. I know I was trying a little bit earlier. If not, I do have another section where I can show you that. So let me see if I can go into a different channel here, and we'll kind of wait for that to display. But here is inside of a different channel. This is the Digital Assets Web. They have actually placed an email inside of this channel, so we can see that information. You also have this one up top here, which is, you know, Isaiah placed that via email as well, and they've forwarded that email directly here into Teams. So anybody who is a part of this team can come in and review this information. If they wanted to view that original email, they can. And what's great about this is if there is an attachment that is attached, that can be included in here as well. So sometimes that's really helpful as well. Let's go back and see if this has placed that in there for us. So not yet. It might take a little bit of time here, but that is what it would look like for you once you do send an email inside of a channel. Now we're going to go into some shortcuts now. So I'm going to go to my top right-hand corner where you see your profile. It's going to be just to the left of that. You have your ellipsis here. Now within this ellipsis, you have a few different options. So we have keyboard shortcuts, right? We'll go through those in just a second. But one thing I do want to mention is the ability to zoom here within Teams. You know, sometimes things can be a little bit small and you want to be able to see things a little bit better. You do have the ability to zoom in, and you'll see that it kind of zooms in the entire window here, but it makes everything, you know, nice and big. It's easier to read here. And what's even greater about this is, let's say that you zoomed in for one particular, you know, message here or something like that. You do also have your fit to or zoom reset here. This is going to fit it back to the frame. And once you select that, it just takes it back to its original kind of view here. So that's your zoom. Let's go back to our ellipsis, and we're going to select keyboard shortcuts. Now, these are very helpful here within Teams. You know, they help to kind of get your job done a little bit easier. I really like the search option that you have, and I'll show you that inside of a chat because you have a way to find some specific information here. But what's great about these is that this actually is categorized. So you have like general and you have navigation, right? So if you're interested in opening up chat, you know, really easily, they have a shortcut for that. We'll scroll down here. You also have like messaging and meetings, calls, and calendar. So I like to do the unmute or mute, right? I like to know what that shortcut is. And so you can actually come in and take a look at some of these shortcuts that they have available for you. Now, oh, excuse me. Let's say that you're not using a PC, right? You use a Mac. They do have at the very bottom of this window on the far left-hand side, you're going to see shortcuts for all platforms. If I select that, this is going to take me into a different window where they have all of those shortcuts for Mac users as well. So you can take a look here and see any of those shortcuts. This also places them in kind of like categories here. We have like general and navigation, right? So they didn't forget about you if you do use a Mac. Those are also available to you as well. Let's go back here to Teams. We're going to close this up. And we also have, kind of the ability to utilize some shortcuts here inside of our search bar. So it is, a search bar where you can actually search, and we're going to kind of try that here in just a second. But you're going to notice that as soon as you select inside of this search box, it says look for messages, files, and more, or type a / for a list of commands. So we talked about the shortcuts, but here within your commands, those are going to be available inside of this search box. So not as many shortcuts as we saw inside of that list, right? But these are some really helpful tools that you can utilize here in Teams. My favorite one to use is the chat function. So let's say that we need to chat with an individual. We're inside of a meeting currently, and we wanted to just quickly send a message. You can, instead of having to navigate here, oh my goodness, I apologize. Instead of having to navigate here to the left rail and click inside of your chat to actually message someone, you can utilize the search bar. Now I'm going to type that / here and just type out chat, and I'm going to hit the tab button, and automatically Teams knows that I want to chat with somebody. It's going to ask me then, who are you trying to chat with? Now, once again, it's going to pull up some suggestions like it normally does, but if that individual isn't there for you, I can maybe type in Adele here. It's going to find her information for me, and I can tab over, and now I'm able to type a message. So I'm just going to say, hey, Adele, are you available for a quick call? Now I've typed out all of my message here for Adele, and then you can either hit enter or you can utilize this purple send button that you see. It has that arrow. I can select that, and it's actually sending my message. So it's letting me know here that it sent that message for me inside of this search box. I haven't actually had to get out of any window here in Teams, and it's now sent that message. If I wanted to confirm that it has sent, I can navigate to my chat tab here, and I can see here is that message I sent to Adele, and I said, are you available for a quick call? And that's actually sent to her. So that's, especially if you're busy working inside of, Teams, maybe you're creating meeting invites, or you're doing, you're working on a document with another individual here inside of Teams. It's really helpful to utilize. You also have just the ability to set your status, which is also another, useful thing that I use in my daily work. If I'm going to go away really quickly, or I'm going to be busy in a minute, right? I could just type out busy and hit enter, and now your status is being set to busy, and that'll reflect here for you as well. Now, search wouldn't be, search if you couldn't actually search inside of Teams, right? So it's useful for commands, but it's also very useful for searching for items. Now, if I'm looking for the word meeting, I'm just typing out that information. It's already pulling some information up, right? It has some top hits, some group chats, and it searches through applications as well. But maybe I want to see all of the results here. We'll select the all results, and this is going to now navigate to just our search box here, and it shows us all of the different categories that we can search through. All here, if maybe we only know that it was sent inside of a message, we can tab over to the messages, and then you have like type. Let me open this up if I can here. So if you knew it happened inside of a chat, or maybe this happened inside of a channel, you can kind of narrow that down here. You also have the ability to narrow it down even further to a specific team or a channel, right? If you knew the dates, right, or from who whoever sent that, right? You can filter that by the person, the date, at mention. So this has a lot of great filtering options to really help you find what it is that you're looking for. Sometimes this has been really helpful for me. You're also going to see like people here. Of course, I'm sure nobody's name is meeting, so that's not going to show us here. But you would have some results if maybe you put like John or a name, an actual name, right? You also have files. So this is going to search through all of the files here in Teams. You also have like file type. We can, search through a loop component if we needed to do that. And here's an end of day checklist here. We can close that up. You also have like modified by and a date. So this is helpful whenever you're searching. Now, you also have just the ability to kind of utilize search inside of, let's say you're searching inside of a chat. Let's go into this Urban Nester and Patty chat that we had going on. Now, let's say that we're looking for, something in particular. We know it was sent in this message. You can utilize Control F. That's going to go into find. And you'll notice that as soon as I've selected Control F, up in the top in my search bar, it has activated the find command. And it automatically knows that I'm trying to search inside of this chat because that's where I've utilized my find. And I can now type out a word. So maybe I'm looking for meeting. I can hit enter, and on the far left-hand side, it's going to show me any of those results. I can now click on the results that it's given me, and it takes me directly back to that post where I'm able to view that information. Maybe I'm looking for, let's try a different word here because so it's the same one here. Sorry, I don't have a lot of information in this particular chat, but this works in any type of, message. If you have tons of messages, maybe years, if you've been using Teams that long, right, it'll search through that entire group message, or if it's just an individual chat that you have going on, you can search within there as well. We'll close out of this and let's move on. We only have 2 more things to cover, and then I'll open it up for our Q&A. Now, on the far left-hand side, right, this is our left rail. This is where we're able to get into other applications, right? So we've been navigating through chat and Teams and calendar. You also have the ability to just add in some other applications, and you're going to see that you have an ellipsis here. Now, if I select this, this is going to give me the ability to find an application where I can access any recently used applications. Let's say that OneNote is one that I'd like to utilize. You can, of course, select that application and it'll open it up directly for you here in Teams. And I'm able to come in and, continue to kind of work on this, maybe make some notes here in OneNote. But if this is an application that I plan on using often, I can you're going to right click here and you have the ability to just pin this application. Now that will stay forever on this left rail until you unpin that. But as soon as I close out of this application, right, let me actually go back into just like chat. You're going to notice that that OneNote application stays on my left rail, so I have easy access to get there. If we've pinned like Viva Insights and Excel, right? Maybe you don't use Viva Insights anymore. You can unpin items as well. You'll just right click once more and we have the unpin option, and that'll get rid of that pin for you here. So you can also customize this information as well. You also have just apps here where you can actually add in some applications if you'd like. And this is actually going to take you back to that app store that we saw inside of chat, where you're able to add in some different applications. This is going to have all of those categories. If you're a part of a specific industry, they even have it narrowed down by industries here. So it kind of makes it easy to find, things that may work well for you. Now, last thing to cover here is just going to be our help section. So we've covered, a lot of information, but if you are interested in, more help within Teams or just kind of learning more about Teams, down at the very bottom left-hand corner, you are going to see that you have a help icon. It has that little question mark on top. You can select that, and this is giving you a few different options. We have like topics and training and what's new. So maybe we're interested in some topics here in Teams. We can make that selection, and it's going to open up that help section for us. Now, this gives us some great information. It places these in kind of categories for you. If you're interested in, what's new in calls, or they have some popular sections here, right? Maybe sending praise to people. You want to be able to do that for your team. You're able to come in and see how to utilize that option. Now, you also have things like training here. So this is a separate tab, right? We can just tab over to training. And this is going to be videos. So if you learn better, that way. If you're a visual learner here, you can utilize training. And again, this places this in some nice categories for you here. You have like teams and channels, set up and customize your team. So this is very, very helpful. And what's great is you didn't even have to leave Teams to kind of learn more about it. It's directly here in this application. Now, excuse me, one last thing is just the what's new section. Now they're always updating Teams, and if you wanted to kind of stay in the know and see exactly what they've added that's new, you like to use those options as soon as they come out, you can utilize the what's new tab here, and it breaks it down by when they actually added that information. You can also see if you're using Teams on your phone. Maybe you have an iPhone or an Android, right? You can see that information here by platform, which is nice. All right. I do just want to quickly check and see if we have any questions that we can answer.
I don't see any questions in the chat, Katie.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to stick around here for a few more minutes for questions, but I do want to pass it back to Jenna and let her close it out.
Great. Thank you, Katie and Roxy. I know I mentioned in the beginning that this is PCA's last session of the year, but we will be going full speed ahead in January to kick off more of these free webinars. And the next focus will be all about SharePoint application to answer any questions that you have and make sure that you're using all of the features that SharePoint has to offer. So please visit pcatg.com/events to learn more about the next sessions, which will go live later this month. And if you ever have any questions about your Microsoft licensing or features, you can also reach out to PCA directly at info@pcatg.com. We also encourage you to visit our LinkedIn, where we provide helpful hints, details for upcoming events, and free resources. And I did just drop that in the chat. But aside from that, please keep a lookout for the recording from this session and our raffled winner of the Lenovo gift card. And thanks again to our speakers today and everyone who attended.
Yes, I just want to echo, thank you so much for joining us for our session today. We did place a link in the Q&A. It is a survey for our end. If you wouldn't mind filling that out for us, that evaluates me and how I did in the session today. And I do shoot for 10s, but there's a place for you to leave me some feedback if you do have any. I read through all of that information. And one quick note on that survey, anything below an 8 is considered a negative score. So please keep that in mind when you are filling that out. But if you are done, you have no final questions, you are free to go. So like I mentioned, we'll stick around here for a few more minutes to answer any last minute questions. If you need me to go back over something and re-demo, I'd be happy to do that as well. So get your questions in so that we can get those answered for you. So I do see a question. Can you read demo how to send an email through the Teams chat? Okay, let me go back here. So were you talking about through Teams or through chat? Because you do have abilities in both. If I wanted to, share this chat to Outlook, you have the ability to do that here within the ellipsis in the top right-hand corner. Or if you have a message from Outlook that you want to share into Teams, you also have that ability here. Now, the one way that I did show was by placing the channel email inside of your forward section, but you're also going to have the option, and that's in the desktop version or in this online version, you're going to see applications that are added, and you can just share that directly to Teams. Now, once you select that, you're able to type out, the name of a person, a group, or a channel here. If I wanted to send that into that PNW Coffee Social campaign here, you'll see that it shows me a kind of breakdown of that email, and then here's where it can include attachments, and you can actually just hit share. So now it's going to send that email there to Teams. So hopefully that was an answer to your question. If not, you can let me know in the Q&A and I can show you a different way here.
And I placed a link in the chat that addresses that as well.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Roxana. I do see some drop off, so I think we'll stick around here for just 2 more minutes to answer any questions. So at 10:55, we will close that out. But if you have any final questions, please feel free to get those in. All right, I don't see any questions coming in, and we do see a drop in attendance. So we're going to end the class here, but thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you learned a little bit more than you came in knowing, and we hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks for joining us. Have a good one.